before we actually talk about the power of representation, I actually wanted to talk to you about some of the news that we have been covering. I'm sure you've been following this past week, which is, of course, on the developments in Ukraine and Russia. You were actually there pretty recently last year. So I wanted to ask you what some of those takeaways were that you think should be applied moving forward, and so far what you think the Biden administration has been doing right, and maybe things that you would recommend to them to continue to do.
Sure. So first off, I spent 20 years in the military, and I retired in 2019. So not too far, not too long ago, I was still active duty. I spent 5 years in Iraq and Afghanistan, so I know what conflict looks like: the good parts, the bad parts, the ugly parts. My expertise is cryptology. I was a cryptologist, so cyber in particular. Last year I had the opportunity of visiting Ukraine, among other places, Taiwan, South Korea, and some other places as well. But Ukraine in particular, there was a couple of takeaways for me. One, it was the fact I met with all different types of people, leadership in the government, the embassy folks. Also, I met with veterans of the 2014 Ukrainian-Russian war. And the takeaway I got specifically from those veterans was they were ready to fight. They weren't going to shy away from a fight. The takeaway was they didn't want to fight. They were basically farmers, and one guy in particular was wearing a Nirvana shirt, and he goes, "Look, man, I don't want war. This is the last thing." He's a doctor, or he's a nurse, a field medic, and he goes, "The last thing I want is war. But you know what? If Russia come looking for a fight, we're not going to shy away from one." The other takeaway that I got was it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And they were asking then, just as they're asking now, where is the United States going to be? A couple of takeaways for the administration. I think it's a positive measure that they sent some weaponry to Ukraine. I think that's great. We need to do more of that. I think that's good that the president is going down that route. I would also say we need to turn, instead of just rhetoric, there has to be actions. And one thing in particular I think that we haven't used is cyber. And this is an instrument in our toolbox that we can use to deter the Russians before there's a kinetic response. So instead of sending tanks and troops and aircraft carriers and planes, why not flip a switch and maybe turn off some oil pumps in Russia and just go, look, this is a small taste of what could happen if you go into Ukraine. These are a few options I think that the president should consider.